Greetings, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. Our talk today is on Ayurvedic wisdom for better digestion. Really excited to share this topic with you today. I think it's a really important, crucial topic in Ayurveda and in life. And before I launch into the talk, I just want to open with a prayer. So I've been blessed to learn about Ayurveda due to the grace of God, gurus, and my teachers. My Ayurvedic teacher is Dr. Vasant Lad. And so I'm going to say a prayer in bowing in deep respect to all of my teachers and to all of you here today as my teachers. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahahi Tejasvi Navadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahahi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So thank you all again so much for being here. It's nice to see a few faces. And so my name is Rosa Harper. I am a student of Ayurveda. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner under the lineage of Dr. Vasant Lad. And this talk today is on Ayurvedic wisdom for better digestion. This talk is an offering of the Pranada Wellness Center. Pranada Wellness is a holistic healing center located at the Temple of Compassion in Burton, Texas. It's a really amazing new project of Kriya Yoga, and we're currently offering educational talks like this one, as well as an immersive healing, in-person healing retreat every spring. So our next retreat is going to be in April, and it's a really amazing experience. Olene Adams, bowing to him as my teacher, he is the director of Pranada Wellness and is an osteopathic physician. Many of you probably know him. He kind of leads Pranada and has a team of really amazing osteopathic physicians who serve at this retreat every year. And part of the retreat is integrating traditional osteopathy, which is an amazing healing science. I encourage you all to check out the website. Olene has videos. Christine Mitchell is one of our osteopaths, and the last talk we did was about osteopathy. So these retreats integrate traditional osteopathy with Ayurveda in a really beautiful way. So anyone who is new to Ayurveda or who hasn't heard of it, many of you probably have, but for those who haven't, I'll just say a few words about Ayurveda. It is the oldest medical science on the planet. It's over 5,000 years old, and I heard somewhere all medical sciences really come out of it. It's really sort of like that tap root. And all medical sciences and all therapies that help to create more balance in the body, in the mind, and in the spirit are compatible with Ayurvedic and are Ayurvedic. Ayurveda is the art of balance, of living in harmony with nature, with both our inner nature and the environments that we find ourselves in as they're constantly changing. So that's a little bit about Ayurveda. And the concept that is the principle that's fundamental when it comes to Ayurveda's view on digestion is a concept called agni. Many of you have probably heard of this. I'll say it again, agni, A-G-N-I. This is a word that literally means fire. And this represents the fire principle in the body. So our metabolism falls under the stewardship of agni. So the state of our fire, the state of this transformative metabolic principle in the body directly relates to how well we are able to digest things. Not only the food that we put in our body, but also the experiences that we have. We need this metabolic, transformative principle of agni to digest everything, that happens, even to just perceive the world around you. Your senses take in information, and Agni transmutes that information into experience, into knowledge. And so everything depends on the state of your Agni, really. And Dr. Lad, my Ayurvedic teacher, has a beautiful acronym for Agni, and it's awareness, governing, nutrition, and intelligence. So it's a big job that Agni is doing in the body. But today we're going to talk more about just this, more of the gross form of Agni, your digestive power. And especially this time of the year, many of us are going to lots of holiday gatherings. We're going to be eating lots of different foods, and it's a beautiful time of year to gather and to nourish. And it's important not to overload your fire and to take really good care of your fire. So it's kind of why I chose this topic for this time of year. So Agni is our metabolic capacity. It's our immunity. It has a lot to do with our immunity and our clarity of perception. And this digestive fire, there's many different Agnis. In the program that I went through, we identified 40 different types of Agni in the body. And the main type of Agni, sort of the king of your Agnis, is called Jatara Agni. Jatara Agni, that's Jathara. And this is the Agni that lives in your stomach. This is the Agni that helps to digest, that does the power of digesting everything that we put into our bodies. So we're going to be talking mostly about this type of Agni, Jatara Agni, and it's affected by everything that we do. It's affected by our environments. It's affected by what we take in. It's affected by our thoughts, feelings, and emotions. It's the seasons. All of these things kind of play a role into how well we are able to digest things and how completely. So, who here has ever tended to a fire? Maybe it's a campfire or a puja fire or anything like that. This is kind of a common experience most of us have tended to fire, and it's almost a perfect metaphor for your digestion. So we're going to be kind of coming back to this metaphor quite a bit. And anybody who's tended a fire knows that fire is sensitive. It is very sensitive to what it's being fed. It's sensitive to its environment. It's almost like a living thing. And it's important when we're thinking about our digestion as our metabolic fire, that we really take care of it and that we feed it things that it is able to digest based on whatever state it's in. So we're going to be talking about that mostly today. And before I get into different types of digestion and things that show up when various factors are up, I want to introduce a concept called AMA. This is a long long A, M-A. This concept of ama, this is sort of the Ayurvedic concept for toxins. And ama is really anything that you cannot digest, anything that the body is not able to process and digest and transmute into healthy tissue and awareness, kind of gets built up in the body and can create sort of a cloudy film. Ama is sticky, it's dense, it's heavy, it's undigested stuff, undigested metabolic waste. And so whenever Agni is low or is impaired, and we keep feeding it things, we keep putting things on that weak fire, Ama naturally goes up. There's an inverse relationship to Agni and Ama. So when Agni is low, you're going to have a buildup of this toxic, morbid metabolic waste in the body. And this creates the conditions for all kinds of other things to come in. So this is an important concept to keep in mind, this concept of Agni and Ama and their inverse relationship. And there's a few ways that you can kind of tell if you have ama in the body. First of all, you're going to feel heavy. lethargic. It's going to feel like there's a kind of a film over your awareness in general. There will be kind of a foul smell coming from the malas or the waste products of the body, like your sweat, your urine, your feces. You'll be able to tell, like, something bad is coming out of me. This is a sign that there's just undigested stuff in the system. And an easy way to visually see if you have some undigested stuff in your GI tract is going to be looking at your tongue. So the tongue is literally connected to our GI, and the tongue, like such a helpful friend that it is, reflects what's going on in your GI. So you don't have to do this right now, but whenever you feel like it and you're in front of a mirror, you can kind of like stick your tongue out and just look at what's going on the surface of your tongue. So if there's a very thick coating, especially if it's on the entire tongue, this is going to show you that your GI tract, if it's on the entire tongue, then perhaps the full length of your GI tract has some undigested stuff in it. And so that's a nice diagnostic. And the tongue, it's going to be changing every day as we metabolize more, it'll be cleaner. And as there's more stuff that's in the system, it'll be heavier. Don't get freaked out if you have a coating on your tongue. But that's just an easy way to see if there's ama in your GI specifically. So that's a little bit about ama. And we're going to get back to agni. And agni has the opposite qualities of ama. Ama's heavy, agni's light. Um, Agni's sharp and Ama's dull. So Agni has all of these qualities of the fire. And before I get into more about diagnosing, kind of like, or self reflecting on what's happening with your digestion, I think it is important to talk a little bit about the doshas. So many of you who have heard something about Ayurveda probably know something about the doshas. And these are the building blocks of our reality. The doshas make up everything. They are the physiological manifestations of the five elements, starting with space or ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So these five elements come together in the form of these three doshas to create our reality and help us move through this world. The first and the most subtle of this amalgamation of elements is called Vata dosha, Vata. And Vata is made up of the most subtle elements of space and air. And Vata controls, it's kind of the king, it controls all movement. All movement is possible because of these elements and how they come together. Our breathing is ruled by Vata dosha. All movements in the body are ruled by Vata. And Vata is, in essence, it has a catabolic force. So I like to think of like the top of a mountaintop. It's such a Vata environment, space and air, and it's constantly being whittled away by those elements. So Vata is catabolic in nature. Our second dosha, the elements come of fire and water, come together to create Pitta dosha. And Pitta has a lot to do with digestion because it does really embody the physiological manifestation of the fire element. And it's this transformative principle in the body. So whereas Vata is catabolic, Pitta is metabolic. It transforms things and has a lot to do with our digestion. The third dosha is Kapha dosha, Kapha. It is the coming together of the earth and the water element. And this is anabolic in nature. It builds. So much of our physical reality is brought to you by Kapha dosha. So it builds, it sustains, it lubricates, it's anabolic, it's building. So these are our three doshas. We all have a different ratio of these doshas in our bodies. And as because of our natural constitutions And because of whatever environmental impacts are having on us, these doshas will affect the way we are able to digest things. And the doshas, they build the body. This is an important principle in Ayurvedic, and they also destroy the body. So when they go out of balance, they are what are the precursors to pathological processes and disease processes. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, it all begins with the doshas. It all begins with an imbalance in the elemental forces. So, thinking about digestion, we're going to talk about three main imbalances in digestion. And the first imbalance we'll talk about is the vata type of digestive imbalance. So, this is when we have too much vata dosha going on. We have too much movement, too much space, too much of these dry, light, mobile qualities in our life. And when that happens, and there are many things that can cause that. A textbook example is traveling, lots of travel, lots of moving through the air, and, by land and by sea, lots of traveling can raise vata. Lots of mobility, talking, too much talking, especially talking while you're eating or eating while you're moving. These are all classic examples of ways that we can bring too much vata dosha into our digestion. And a key or a hallmark of this type of digestion, and I'll give you the Sanskrit name. This type of digestion is called Vishama. Vishama, Vishma, Vishama Agni. When your Agni is Vishama, when there's too much Vata, you'll get irregularity. So maybe sometimes you'll be able to digest stuff and sometimes you won't. Sometimes you're hungry, sometimes you'll forget to eat for half the day. There's just this irregularity. Think about wind. Too much wind is on your campfire. And it's just like sometimes that wind makes it go high and then sometimes it puts it out. Like there's too much vata on the fire. And some of the main symptoms that you'll have if this is the case for you is there will be gas, bloating, and constipation. So gas and bloating, like literally, there's too much air in your digestive system, and you get this gas, you get this bloating. It's vata. So I'm going to describe these, and then in a bit later, we're going to talk about how to help balance them. But I'm just going to get through these main different types of imbalances. So that's Vishama. That's too much wind on your campfire. Gas, bloating, constipation, that dry quality can cause constipation. It can cause your stools to be dry and they're hard to eliminate. So that's wind on your campfire, vata dosha affecting your digestion. The second type of digestive imbalance we'll talk about is when pitta. There's too much pitta. There's too much of that fire. There's too much of that like liquid fire energy. And we call this Tikshna Agni. Tikshna Agni, Tikshna. This means like sharp. And people with this kind of Agni will get hangry. They'll get really strong hunger. And if they're not able to satisfy it, those pitta emotions, those sharp emotions of anger and irritability will be there. Burning sensations are also very common if you have too much pitta in the system. So things like GERD, hypermetabolism, and then these people tend to have loose stools, whereas if there's too much vata, you're going to get constipation. If there's too much of this fire, this watery liquid fire of pitta dosha, then you're going to get loose stools. You're going to get diarrhea and things like that. And the metaphor I like to think about with Tikshna Agni is like gasoline on the fire. So like anybody who's put lighter fluid on a fire, like, whoa, it can burn your face off and then ultimately dampen the fire. So, this is not a type of fire that's going to be able to burn through everything really well, but it burns really hot in these kind of flashes. So that's Tikshna Agni, or too much Pitta dosha affecting your metabolic fire. And Kapha, when there's too much Kapha, when there's too much of this earth and this water element, it's like having dampness. It's like trying to start a campfire in the rain. Like it's hard. There's too much dampness. We call this Manda Agni, Manda. And this is slow. This is dull digestion. So signs that this is happening for you will be if you feel really heavy after a meal, really heavy, like you just need to like take a nap and go to sleep. This is a sign that your digestion is slow, that there's a little too much kapha dosha in the system. And this can also create lots of mucus. Mucus is a good example of the kapha type of tissue. So mucus buildup, congestion, and like burping many hours after you've had a meal and still getting that taste of food, which is just telling you that there's still undigested, that meal is still undigested in the system. So those are our three types of digestion that get imbalanced with an excess of the three doshas. Vishama Agni being a kind of a vata imbalance, Tikshna Agni being sort of a pitta imbalance, and then Manda Agni being more of a kapha imbalance. And there's a fourth type of Agni, and maybe some of us have experienced this at some point in our life, but it's called Sama Agni. Sama Agni. And Sama means balanced. So balanced Agni. And this is like that healthy campfire that you can just throw anything on and it's going to get through it. It's going to burn through it. This is what that type of Agni does for our bodies. So maybe we know someone who can just eat anything and get through it and feel great and go, like play sports afterwards. Um, Maybe we've been that person at some time in our life. This is where we're aiming for, and this is something that we're all capable of, but we just need to learn how to tend to that little campfire in our bellies. So, before we get into kind of like the tips and recommendations for balancing these three different types of Agni, I'm going to give some general Ayurvedic guidelines for digestion. These are guidelines we can all follow regardless of how our digestion is showing up in the moment. So the first guideline is just not to overload the system. Just like when you're building that little campfire, the first thing you put on it is not going to be the biggest log in your stack. It's going to be like tender. You're going to want to feed it whatever it's capable of digesting, and you're not going to put too much stuff on your fire at once. So not to eat until your stomach is bursting. In general, you only want to eat to 1/3 of the capacity of your stomach. So 1/3 should be reserved for your meal. 1/3 should be reserved for the liquid, and then the last third should be air. And if all of these are balanced in the stomach will be able to do the work it needs to do to digest things properly. So not to overload the stomach. The second thing is to only eat when you're truly hungry. And this can be hard to um, for various reasons, but you want to really listen. Hunger is such a blessing. It's a sign that your Agni's burning, and it's your body telling you to add more fuel. So true hunger is different than kind of that mental desire to eat pizza or ice cream or whatever you want to reach for comfort. But true hunger Most of us are familiar with that feeling, and it's a feeling to be honored, and it's important. True hunger is a vital sign. It's a sign that you're alive. It's a sign that your agni is burning well. So don't be afraid of true hunger. It's a blessing to have true hunger and to be able to satisfy it. So only eat when you have that true feeling of hunger. And if you don't, if you're feeling heavy and lethargic and your tongue is coated, take a break, not in a self-punishing way, but in a way that just is honoring your digestive fire. And we'll talk about things that herbs you can take and teas you can drink to help kindle that fire. Speaking of that, don't try not to drink lots of water, especially with your meal. It's going to kind of dilute those digestive enzymes that are trying to digest your food. So you can sip a little water with your meal, but don't drink a glass, especially of ice water. So lots of Westerners love their ice. They love ice and water, and Ayurveda doesn't. Ayurveda says you should really avoid ice water. It's it really dampens digestive fire. And if we're thinking if we are someone who does have a coated tongue or who is trying to kind of detox the system, that cold quality just kind of congeals things. Anybody who tried to like wash an oily dish in cold water, it is hard to do. Everything just sticks more with the addition of that cold quality. So warm, think warm. If you can drink a little bit of warm water after your meal or a little bit like this is going to help get things moving through the system and cleaning the pipes, like cleaning this digestive tube. So warm water. Another guideline is not to eat when you are upset. Anybody who has had sort of a shock knows that you can be hungry in 1 minute and then like all of a sudden you hear something on the news or you get a phone call or you see something disturbing and it kills your agni. Um, it's so if you're having a political debate at the Christmas, table and you're getting upset, just like lay off the food for a while. Wait until you're calm, until your hunger comes back to continue eating. Because emotional upset will kill your digestive fire. Anxiety, things like that, will also make it harder to digest your food. And speaking of that, generally, you just want to be seated. You want to be in a quiet, comfortable place. You want to have your full attention, if possible, on your meal. And not to be talking too much. It's going to add air. It's going to add air to your food. It's going to increase the chance that you're going to have those vishama qualities. You're going to have more gas and bloating and things like that. So a peaceful, nice environment when you eat. So those are some of our general guidelines. And so now we're going to go back into Vata Pitta Kapha land and talk about this Vata type of digestion, this Vishama type of digestion. So again, remember with Vishama Agni, it's irregular. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. There's wind. There's too much wind on the fire. So some guidelines for balancing that specific type of digestion are going to be regularity. You're going to want to try your best while honoring your natural hunger. You're going to want to try your best to eat regular meals at regular intervals. Regularity is key for balancing this type of digestion. If you know that you digest oatmeal really well, but sometimes you forget to eat breakfast, yada, yada, yada. Just try to create a system where you can have that oatmeal at a regular time in the morning. You can have your lunch at a regular time. You can have your dinner at a regular time. Irregularity in our eating patterns creates more Vishama Agni. So regularity is one of the keys for balancing this type of digestion. and the qualities of vata. So remember, Vishama digestion is there's too much vata dosha, and vata is dry. It's dry, it's light. So you're going to want to be eating things that are opposite to the qualities of vata, and it's cold. So you're going to want to be eating warm foods with warming spices. Try to avoid cold food. Raw food is going to be really hard for someone with Vishama Agni to digest. So you're going to want to have foods that are cooked, that have that are kind of the digestion process has already started. They're kind of pre-digested. They've been cooked. So soups, dal, things like that are going to be easier for someone with Vishama Agni to digest. So the general rules for Vishama and for dealing with Vata dosha imbalances in general is for your food to be warm, wet, well cooked, and well spiced. So warming spices, like think cumin. I'm not talking like hot chilies because that hot quality can actually be drying and can be counterintuitive. But just warming spices, more oil, things that are going to be unctuous. So a little bit of ghee on top of your food is going to be really good for balancing this type of Agni. And so those are the foods you want to favor. You're going to want to avoid foods that are dry, that are crunchy. So think like crackers and hummus. We might love that snack. That's going to be adding a lot more air to the system. So if you are someone who loves beans, beans are gas producing. In general, if you have this type of Agni and if you have excess Vata dosha, you're going to want to avoid eating too many beans. But if you're somebody that loves them and wants to continue eating them, just make sure that they are nicely cooked. And we'll talk a little bit. There's a type of seaweed called kombu, Kombu, that you can add to your beans that will help reduce that vata quality. So there's some things you can do. And there's an herbal blend that's popular in Ayurveda. It's a traditional formula that's really great for helping this type of digestion. And it's called Hingvastak. Hingvastak, that's Hingvastak. And it's a mix of several, maybe seven or so different herbs that have these warming, uh, digestive properties in them. So you can, and it's tasty, it's yummy. So you can sprinkle it on your food. You can take a little bit before you eat to help kindle that fire. And that can be a good ally. That can be a good tool to use if you are experiencing this type of Agni, Vishama Agni. Another little Ayurvedic um, tool or appetizer that can really help, I think, with all of these types of Agnis, maybe with the exception of Tikshna, is something called ginger pickle. Ginger pickle. This is super easy to make. It's just fresh ginger, grated, and just a tiny, you only need a tiny little bit of fresh grated ginger with a squeeze of lime juice and a little sprinkle of mineral salt or sea salt. And you just take a tiny little pinch of this and chew on it maybe 15 minutes before you have your meal. And it's like an explosion of digestive enzymes. And that will go, it will start in your mouth. It'll start kind of creating these, um, it'll start creating all of that good salivary secretions that's going to help you digest things. And it will go into your stomach and it'll help kindle your digestive fire. So, taken about 15 minutes before you eat, it's going to help kindle that fire so that when you do eat, that fire is going to be already burning. It's going to help you burn through your food better. So, that's ginger pickle. A really nice little, you could make a little bit for your holiday gathering and just have it on the table and share it with people. It's a nice thing to eat, especially if you know you're going to be eating a big, heavy meal. So that's those are a few guidelines for dealing with Vishama or too much vata in your digestive system. Now, what happens when we have too much pitta in our digestive system? Remember this analogy of the gasoline on the campfire. It's going to create intense hunger and burning sensations. So the key to dealing with Tikshna Agni are going to be eating regularly too. You don't want to deal with somebody who's hangry. You don't want to be that person. So eating regularly and eating foods that are grounding, nourishing, and that have kind of a cooling effect on the body. And so the things that are going to have a cooling effect on the body are going to tend to be have a sweet and a bitter aftertaste. So like um, leafy greens are great. Sweet potatoes could also be good for pitta. They're going to have favor the sweet and bitter tastes. And the most important thing is what to avoid, I think, with Tikshna Agni, and that's going to be fried food. So oil in general is hot. Think about what happens when we put oil on a fire. It goes up. So to avoid things that have too much oil is going to be really important for this type of digestion, this type of like burning sensation, nausea and indigestion. These can be other symptoms of Tikshna Agni. So avoid fried foods if you can, and hot spices. So it's usually our pitta people that love spicy food the most. And to know that about yourself and to just take it down a notch, reduce the spices, reduce the chili, and favor herbs and spices that can have more of a cooling effect, that are digestive, that are carminative, but are more cooling in nature. My favorite of these is fennel. Fennel is such a helpful herb. It's a seed and you can just put it, you can use it as a spice in your food. You can chew on some roasted fennel seeds after you eat to help your digestion get kindled. Most Indian food places will have some like little fennel candies, like sugar-coated fennel seeds that you can chew after food, and there's a good reason for that. That is an Ayurvedic tool. Coriander seed and cilantro leaf are really great also for cooling and supporting that type of Tikshna Agni. Another favorite of mine is aloe vera water. So a little bit of aloe vera water. And there's a good brand, the school that I go to, one of our teachers really recommended this brand of aloe water called George's, just like the name, George's aloe water. It's shelf-stable, it's natural, it's tasteless. Sometimes you'll get aloe and it'll have additives in it, or it'll be very bitter. But this is a really easy to take natural type of aloe supplement. George's aloe water. I think you can find it at Whole Foods. To take maybe a quarter cup of that um, before or after you eat can help to regulate, to cool down your digestion and prevent some of those burning sensations that we get when we have Tikshna Agni. Okay, so our third type of Agni is when there's too much Kapha dosha, and it slows things down. It creates Manda Agni. So these people who have very slow digestion are going to be the people who are good candidates for like intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting can be great for people with this type of digestion. It is not great if you have Tikshna Agni or Vishama Agni. I would not recommend doing that if you are having those other types of symptoms. But if you're having very slow digestion, giving yourself a nice long break in between meals is going to be a really helpful tool for kindling that type of Agni so that you can keep it burning strong. So, if you're not hungry for breakfast in the morning and you're still feeling heavy from the meal you ate the day before, skip breakfast and wait until you have true hunger, and then have a nice, easy to digest meal. And just like with Vishma Agni, you're going to want to eat warming foods, but instead of having them be heavy and grounding, you're going to want to eat more warm food, but that's lighter in nature, that's easier to digest, especially dairy. So people with very slow digestion in general should avoid dairy because it digests very slowly in the system. And that ginger pickles appetizer is going to be really important for slow Manda Agni. And then there's an herbal blend called Trikatu, Trikatu. It means the three pungents. And it's exactly that. It's a mix of three different pungent herbs, ginger, and then two types of pepper. And this is something that, just like with Hingva stock for the Vishma Agni, you can sprinkle it on your food. You can take it after you eat. It's tasty and it will help kindle that digestive fire. Trikatu might be too sharp for someone with Vishma Agni, but it's perfect for someone with really slow Agni. So those are the few recommendations or guidelines for the different types of digestive disorders from an Ayurvedic perspective. And we're going to have time at the end for some Q&A. So if you have any questions, please write them down and save them for the end. I'm not going to be able to answer any medical questions, but happy to talk about more about digestion and how it shows up if you have specific questions. So now we're going to move into another principle of the Ayurvedic perspective on digestion, which is food combining. This is a really important principle to keep in mind. And Ayurveda is really one of the only places that I've ever heard people talk about food combining. Western medicine doesn't seem to really acknowledge it as a thing, but it's considered to be really important from an Ayurvedic perspective, especially when it comes to how well we digest. So, food combining. So, the world is made up of all kinds of food options, and there's a whole spectrum of food options with all kinds of different qualities. And in general, you're going to want to combine foods that you eat that have compatible qualities. If you ingest something, if you ingest two things together that digest at completely different rates, you're going to get incomplete digestion. Some things are going to be ready to move on through the system and some things aren't. And so things are going to move through the system that are not completely digested. This is kind of the idea with food combining and why it's important to eat compatible foods. So I'm going to share some very foundational aspects of food combining. I'm not going to get too deep into it. And the first is pretty basic and important to remember, which is this idea of fruit, eating fruit. So the body knows what to do with fruit. It's one of our natural foods. It digests super easily. I'm not saying don't eat fruit. You should absolutely keep eating your fruit, but to eat it alone, not to mix your fruit with a bunch of other stuff because it digests so rapidly, so completely that if you eat fruit, say with yogurt, which I know many of us love to do, or oatmeal, I know we like to do that too. But if you do that, these things digest very differently in the system, especially dairy. So especially that yogurt. Yogurt digests very slowly and your fruit digests very rapidly. So when you eat these together, it's 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 a sin against Agni. It's not fair to your digestive fire. It's going to be hard. Maybe if you're that person with perfect Agni, with Sama Agni, you can do it, no problem. But in general, if you do this all the time, every day, it's going to be hard on your Agni. It's going to be hard on your digestive capacity. So in general, eat your fruit alone. around 45 minutes. Like if you want to have fruit as a dessert or something like that, space it out 45 minutes after you've eaten, or before you eat. So to eat fruit alone, and within the fruit family, there are a couple other fruits that should absolutely be eaten by themselves. You can have a fruit salad in general, that's fine. But bananas and melons. So these are two unique fruits. I love them. And they digest at their own specific rate. And it's good not to mix them up with a bunch of different things. So banana, awesome. If you're going to eat that, eat it alone. I'm somebody who grew up eating banana pudding. It's like a southern, something that's always at southern potlucks. And I ate a lot of banana pudding. And I loved it when I was a kid. I would not eat it now. I know too much. And I probably don't have the digestive power that I did when I was 10 years old. So bananas, to eat them alone, and melons, same thing. Melons, they're so delicious. They turn into like just liquid joy, but they digest so fast and so differently than other fruits to eat your melon alone. So if it's the height of summer and you want to have a cantaloupe, just eat that, eat half a cantaloupe for breakfast and space it out from your other foods. So in general, eating your fruit alone, and trying to avoid eating it with things, especially other things, especially dairy. This is our first food combining guideline. So we also, and this is another word about fruit. People in the West especially love their smoothies. They will throw everything and anything into a smoothie and just think they're doing, a really good job. And maybe they are. Maybe they can digest that, and that's fine. In general, Ayurveda says that you don't want to combine vegetables and fruits and dairy and fruits. So if you're the person who loves to have a smoothie, try to make it just like simply a fruit smoothie or simply like um, a protein smoothie. Don't add a bunch of different random things in your morning smoothie if you can help it. So I'll just talk about a few more food combining things. One of them is beans. In general, you don't want to mix beans. Beans are great. They're a good source of protein. You don't want to mix them with other proteins. So you don't want to mix beans with meat. You don't want to mix beans with cheese. I'm sorry, that was a bummer for me. I used to eat a lot of bean and cheese tacos. And you don't want to mix them with eggs. So in general, because they're going to digest very differently, you want to eat your beans. Not, you're going to don't want to mix your beans with other heavy proteins. And like I mentioned earlier, if you're someone with more vata, with gas and a tendency towards gas and bloating and constipation, and you love beans and you want to keep eating them, you can try cooking them, always soaking them, of course, that kind of helps to unlock the enzymes in them, but cooking them with kombu, that a little stick of that type of seaweed, kombu, Kombu, can help to reduce that gas producing quality of the beans. And I already touched on this last one, dessert. So Westerners love having dessert after their meals. I do too. But the sweet taste digests really quickly, just like the fruit. We're talking about the fruit. To have a heavy meal and then to put a dessert right on top of it it's going to be digesting very differently at different rates. So you can have your dessert maybe before you eat, 30 minutes before you eat. You can have it 45 or so minutes after you eat, but to not put a dessert right on top of a heavy meal. So those are some. I hope I'm not bumming people out too much. Sometimes these feel like kind of bummers, but it really like if you have, man, having high agni, having good, strong agni is just, it's worth making these sacrifices, I promise. So I'm just going to talk about a few more little Ayurvedic tips for kindling your Agni. So for tending to that little campfire. We already talked about using these digestive spices and ginger pickle and honoring your Agni however it's showing up. And we've heard Guru Dev said, or those that we've heard that Guru Dev used to say to many people, to chew. to 100 times every bite of food. That's really hard to do, but do your best. If you can really digest that food in your mouth before it goes into your stomach is going to have a much easier time of handling it. So chew your food. And this means that you're probably not talking a lot while you're eating and that you're really giving your full attention to your meal, which has its own prabhav. It has its own um, quality of kindling your agni, your attention. So chew your food well. Many of us who practice Kriya also know the power of Mahamudra. Mahamudra. So if you're someone who practices Kriya, throw some more Mahamudra and is experiencing digestive problems, throw some more of those into your practice. Practice Mahamudra. It kindles, it gets all of your digestive juices churning and really, really supports all those organs of digestion. We spoke about digestive spices. Digestive enzymes, this is something that I don't have a ton of knowledge around, but I've used them and I know that they have been helpful for me. So if you're someone who has a nice digestive enzyme supplement that you love, taking that after your meal, especially if you have slow digestion, can be very helpful. And really, the spices that we were talking about are digestive enzymes. They are like nature's digestive enzymes. So lean on those digestive spices as well and use them in your cooking. We spoke about ghee a little bit. And so Dr. Lad has said not to like fry your food in ghee. The best way to utilize the nourishing divine power of butter oil or ghee is to just drizzle a little bit, a few teaspoons of it on top of your meal, especially if you have more of that vata type of digestion. This is going to be really helpful. So just like we add ghee to our puja fire and it nourishes the fire, ghee, a little bit of ghee added to our digestive fire will nourish it. So a little bit of ghee. And then with your liquids, again, we spoke about not adding too much liquid, not drinking ice water while you're eating. If you're someone with Vishama or Manda, so with irregular or slow digestion, sipping on a warm digestive tea throughout the day can be very helpful. So in general, like I always have a thermos with warm water in it, and just warm water is a digestive aid. Just sipping on a little warm water can a little bit at a time throughout the day can kindle your digestion and kind of support that detox. And if you want to go a step beyond, you can make it like a fresh ginger, like great fresh ginger. Simmer it for a while till it reduces a bit and you have a strong tea and sip on that throughout the day. That can be very good for kindling your digestion. There's a tea blend, which is just made up of 3 seeds, cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds, equal parts, you can make as a tea. And you can do the same thing, just simmer a few teaspoons of that, of each of those in a pot of water, let it reduce, and get a nice strong tea. Put that in a thermos. Drink that throughout the day. It will kindle Agni and it does what we call in Ayurveda Deepan Pachan. So Deepan means that you're kindling Agni. And then Pachan means that you're destroying ama. So it'll have it's like a detox tea that you can make and drink throughout the day. And speaking of detox, I feel like I can't talk about Ayurveda and Ayurvedic therapeutics, especially when it comes to digestion, without talking about Triphala. So many of us have probably heard about Triphala. It's Triphala. It means the 3 fruits. And um, this is an herbal blend that is generally taken at night before bed, away from food, and this will support detoxing the GI tract. So if you're someone who has a thick coating on the tongue, especially if you're somebody who's tending towards constipation, Triphala can help to get things moving and to clean that GI tract. So, very, very helpful herbal formula. If you're the person who is struggling with loose stools, triphala might not be for you because it can really encourage bowel movements. But if you are tending more towards constipation, it would be something to look into. Triphala. And the last thing that I want to share before we open up to questions is a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. See if I can get this going. Here we go. So many of us have heard this verse before, and I just thought it was important to put this in here and to remember what Agni really is, which is an aspect of God. So this is from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 14. And it goes, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashritaha Prana Pana Samayuktaha Pacham Yanam Chaturvidam. So this is saying, I, Krishna speaking to Arjuna, as God, having become the universal fire, residing in the bodies of all living beings and united with the inward and outward breaths, I digest the four kinds of food. So, really, the power of our digestion is an aspect of God and deserves to be honored as such. Everything we take in is an oblation, is an offering to God, which is why we pray before our food, and which is why prayer before our food is so helpful for our digestion because it acknowledges where this power is truly coming from. So, I want to end with that. And I also want to put in a little plug here. So this picture is a little Homa fire. This is a little puja fire. Um, it's in a copper pyramid, an inverse pyramid. And this is a picture that I pulled off of a site, an educational site for Agni Hotra. Agni Hotra. Who here has heard about Agni Hotra? Anybody? So Agnihotra is such a powerful tool for kindling Agni. It is the simplest that I know of Vedic fire ceremonies. Agnihotra, Hotra, Agnihotra. This is a very, very simple, it takes 5 minutes to do, fire ceremony that is performed in the morning as the sun is rising, and again in the evening as the sun is setting. And this is an honoring of Agni in our bodies and of Agni in the whole atmosphere around us. And doing Agnihotra, doing the simple Vedic fire ceremony, it involves the use of one of these copper pyramids, a little bit of cow dung, a little bit of rice and ghee. You make two offerings of rice and ghee with two mantras. Again, it takes 5 minutes, does not take a long time to do, and has the effect of nourishing, of regulating the Agni in your body. I wish I could talk more scientifically about how it does it, but all I know is it works because I've been doing it for about 5 years now. And there's a beautiful individual living at the Temple of Compassion. His name is Raman. Many of us might know him. He tends the giant greenhouses at the Temple of Compassion. And at our Pranada retreats in the spring, he teaches a class on how to do Agnihotra. He teaches a class on it, and then he helps anyone who's interested in doing Agnihotra. He has stations set up, and he'll teach you how to do it every morning for those people who choose to come to the retreats. So it's a great place to get comfortable with this beautiful fire ceremony. And the Temple of Compassion also sells these little pyramids. It's great. I think they sourced their stuff from India. So they have these little pyramids. They have a whole Agni Kotra set that you can buy along with fresh cow dung. And their dung is the best. I've tried cow dung from many different places. The cow dung that comes from the Temple of Compassion is really good. It burns really well. It has this beautiful energetic effect. So they'll give you cow dung. You can buy those online at pranadaproducts.com, or when you come in person to the Temple of Compassion, you can get them there. So I love Agnihotra. It not only serves you and your Agni, but it supports your entire environment. There's lots of studies that have been done all over the world on the effect that Agnihotra has specifically on plants and crops. It's extremely, extremely nourishing for the plant life. And I would say all life in your environment. It nourishes Agni on all levels. So very simple Ayurvedic tool that you can use to boost Agni. So I'm going to stop the share at this point and open it up. If anybody has any questions, anything that came up, would love to hear about that now. It looks like Emily, you have your hand up, and I will see if you can unmute. Are you able to? Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Pranam. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Nice to see you, Rosa. Um, yes, I have a question. You said the in the beginning, you said the stomach should only have, oh, is that me or you? Oh, somebody else is unmuted. Um,
Come
uh,
on.
Go ahead. Yeah.
okay, so it's the food you should eat only one third the size of your stomach, right? So then you said the one third should be the food, one third should be air, and then what was the other one?
Yeah, the other one is that natural water that's in the that's in the stomach. Yeah.
You're giving it, just allowing. So, okay,
Yeah.
got
Hmm.
it.
Yeah, it's called.
Okay, okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you
Okay.
so
Yeah.
much.
And another little tip, you're like, well, what does one third of my stomach look like? How much is that? Um, It's really beautiful how our bodies are just designed to nourish us and um, to reflect balance in themselves. So I have heard it said that two cupped handfuls, and I think this is called one Anjali, is two cupped handfuls. About as much food as you can fit in those two cupped hands is about one third capacity of your stomach. So that's about what you
Mhm.
should be eating.
Okay, all right. Thank you
Mhm.
so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, ciao.
Okay, I think Claire and Nate, do you guys have a question?
Hi, Rosama.
Hi, Rosa.
Thank you so much. This was brilliant. I think we both have questions. Uh,
Excellent.
Mine is about fruit. Thanks for clarifying that. I've heard that before. Does that apply to fruits like avocado and tomato?
That's a great question. So I think avocado is a little different. Avocado, because it has that such a different quality than most fruits. It's heavy, it's oily, it's unctuous. Yeah, it can fall. It does not, you can eat that. You can definitely eat avocado with things. Um, and tomato is a little different. Tomato, I think, it gets cooked into things regularly, and that's fine. In general, like Dr. Ladd doesn't like tomatoes. Like I remember him talking about tomatoes and being like, "Oh, tomatoes, terrible," because they can tend to be like in their nightshades. They can tend to cause inflammation in the body and different things. But I think in general, as long as you are preparing it, cooking it well, not eating it maybe raw with a bunch of different stuff, um, like raw tomatoes with feta cheese, that might be delicious, but it's bad food combining. So I think if cooked in dishes, like traditional Indian food definitely cooks with tomato quite a bit. Um, I think that's fine. It's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. And Nate, I think you had a question too, right?
Yeah. Hello, everybody, and thank you, Rosa. I really appreciate this. This is very interesting and informative. My question is about dairy, and just to give you a little bit of context about my question, I happen to know my constitution is Vata Pitta, and all throughout my early life, I was lactose intolerant, but I've gone through periods of time where I can tolerate dairy. And now I seem to be in a period of time where I can tolerate it, but I'm not sure how it's affecting my agni. What can you say about dairy and how we should be eating dairy?
Yeah, that's a good question. And your share just reflects that, like, the state of Agni, when Agni is great, like we can digest different things. And when it's weak, it's harder. So I would say that your body is going to be giving you all the information you need to know how well you're digesting dairy. So if you know that you had dairy and then the next day or a few hours later, your tongue is heavily coated, this is just an indication that, wow, maybe I'm not digesting this all properly. Or maybe you feel heavy or you start to feel congested. These are all signs that maybe this was a little harder for me. Maybe I should go a little lighter on the dairy next time. So your body, thank God for these bodies. They're so intelligent. They tell us everything that we need to know. And this is why Ayurveda is such a just timeless science because it shows us how to read our own book, how to really listen to these bodies and take the cues from them about what we should and should not be doing. So I would say just listen. And if it seems like you're having a harder time, again, just tend that little fire. Don't put yogurt on the fire. Put, like kindling, put things that are easy to digest on your little fire. Does that make sense?
Experimental. In other words, it's something that I should experiment with.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Hmm.
Rosa,
Yes.
first of all, namaste.
Namaste.
Rosa Ma.
Sayuru.
I was in India recently and coconut oil. Can you speak about coconut oil? And the second question is the trifula that you spoke about. What is the content of that?
Mm. Yeah, so coconut oil, are you talking about cooking with coconut oil?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, coconut oil can be a great thing to cook with. Again, it's going to have a cooling. Coconut is cooling. So if you're somebody who tends to have more of that pitta digestion, that sharp digestion, it's a good option. Not too much. Too much oil in general is not good for that. But yeah, coconut oil is a good, nourishing, cooling oil. Absolutely fine to cook with. And
Mixing it with olive oil. That's what I've been doing lately.
how is that working out for you? How is your
Great. It's doing
Okay.
great. But
Okay, good.
I'm an old lady and I'm trying to get my cholesterol down. And I heard it's not that good for cholesterol. So,
Yeah, and again, medical questions I can't really answer, but in general, you're going to want to with cholesterol, you're going to want to be more careful with your oils, but I think those are good choices for somebody dealing with high cholesterol in moderation. Absolutely. And triphala, if it's okay to move on to that, triphala is made up of three fruits, and it's haritaki, which is specifically good for balancing vata dosha. Haritaki.
Teriyaki, can you spell that for me, please?
Haritaki, it's pretty phonetic. Hari, Hari, Taki, Taki. Haritaki.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Bibitaki, which is more for balancing kapha dosha. Bibitaki, also pretty phonetic.
Vivi, Vivitaki.
It starts with a B as in
B
boy.
like a boy. Okay.
Bibitaki. And then Amalaki, so amla fruit. And this is specific for balancing pitta dosha, amalaki. So
Where
the
can I
fruit
get these,
you
Rosa?
can, where are you live? Are you living in the United States?
I live in Florida and I attend the Homestead Ashram.
Perfect. So you can, a good source of Ayurvedic herbs is Banyan Botanicals. Banyanbotanicals.com. They have triphala in powdered form and in pill form. However, you manage to take it, as long as you're taking it, it's going to be good for you. And to take it in general at night before bed, away from food. If you take it with food, it'll kind of act as a laxative. So to take it away from food.
Spell that again. B-A and Banya Taki.
Banyan, 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 like the tree.
And Taki, Tacky.
Banyan Botanicals
Oh,
is the
botanicals.
name
Okay.
of that company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sweet. So, Louisa, oh, you're welcome to share.
Hi. Yeah, I was curious that when you say Sama Agni, so is uh, is somebody really getting there? Because somebody or somebody or some like the different doshas, everybody has something or the other going on.
It's true. I know we're living in it's hard to find Sama Agni. I remember my teachers in clinic were like, you're not going to find somebody with Sama Agni. So, just
Yeah,
don't look for it.
since you said you do the Agnihotra and all the all the doshas you are aware of, so you're doing all kind of spices that you need for your body. So is there a point where you can really attain that if you practice such stuff?
Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, gosh, who here who's been at a gathering with Guruji has seen how much food people pile on his plate and he's able to eat it all. I would say he's someone with Sama Agni. He's got that power, and some of us do, especially I think young, there's so much, we have so much natural Agni when we're young people, especially if we're raised in a nice regular way where we're eating healthy meals, our families are providing really balanced food for us. There's plenty of kids that I've met and teenagers who, man, they can eat anything. They can really power through it because
Mhm.
they have the natural help of that Agni. As we age,
Yeah,
um, that changes. And so we need to start tending, being more conscious about how we take care of our digestive fire, because it's more easily influenced by our environments and things like that.
yeah.
But it's possible. It's possible for all of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it seems to be not anymore with age, I feel. Like, yeah, there was a time when I was in school and I could eat so much and I could digest and everything. But now, like, I feel like I'm in the kaffa or something. Like, I don't feel
Oh,
hungry in the for breakfast, and then when I eat lunch, I'm still feeling heavy and everything.
yes. Yeah. So those tips for dealing with slow digestion, just more space, less snacking, really creating that more space in between your meals and not filling it with snacks, even though maybe they be around. Like that's going to be important for slow digestion. And adding those spices, adding some nice like ginger pickle or tricketu, things like that, and sipping on ginger tea, really taking care of that fire. And
I would
it's
like to add what you said to Adriana. The trifala, I also have it, and but one part of it is amla. I was I wanted to say that we get amlas but frozen because we don't get from in like we get in India, just like in the farmers market. So we get the frozen ones, like the whole bunch from an Indian local store here, and then we just soak it in water and eat it, or like make a soup out of it or something. So yeah, if that helps her. So I just wanted to.
beautiful. Wow. Awesome. Yeah. That's such a gift that you're um, able to have that incorporated into your diet. And I just want to say, yeah, anybody who comes from a traditional Indian household, has Ayurveda just like built into their food habits, and such a gift to have that just kind of already incorporated into your life.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. It was a really beautiful session. I, I made note of everything in my two different notepads about the food combination and all the doshas that you mentioned and what to work on. I feel
Awesome.
I wanted to ask a very small, quick question. So, somebody who is going through chest burn and all, is it recognized as the Pitta dosa completely, or it's different?
Yeah, so Vishama, Vishama is irregular. So that you can have a mix of these. You can have Vishama Tikshna Agni, where it's irregular and sometimes there's burning sensation. You can have a mix of any of them. You can have Tikshna Manda, where sometimes there's like intense hunger and then like really slow digestion afterwards. So the doshas do not act, alone. Like you can have a mix of dosha imbalances and it can show up as a combination of these factors. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Thank you so much.
you're so welcome, Lisa. Mariusz. Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, Rosa. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for another beautiful presentation. My question is, can you say a little more about intermittent fasting and what intermittent means? There's so many theories and apps and, approaches and advice. I know you can't give medical advice, but maybe you can give a little context.
Yeah, and so when I say I don't know much about intermittent fasting, but I do know that it is generally like waiting from when you have your dinner and like kind of expanding the time from when you have your dinner until you have your next meal. Um, so this can mean skipping breakfast or eating breakfast a little bit later in the day. And I don't have a ton of advice. Again, I will say that if you are someone with Vishama Agni or Tikshna Agni, this can imbalance you further, so not to do that. And in general, the guideline is just to eat when you are truly hungry. Um, and if you're someone who Vata is very out of balance and maybe you forget that you're hungry, to add that regularity. Like it's breakfast time. Can I eat breakfast right now? Do I have hunger for breakfast? If it's yes, do it. Like create regularity in your life. And if it's manda, if it's more slow, then just wait for that real hunger rather than being like, it's breakfast time. I'm going to have a bunch of yogurt. Just wait until you have true hunger. So when I say intermittent fasting, maybe I shouldn't have used that phrase. I just mean like space out. If you have that slow, heavy, takes a long time to digest things, space out your meals so that you have at least 6 hours between your meals. You can go through a full process of digestion before you add something else. Does that help, Mariusz? Do you have any other questions about that?
Yes, that helps. And I think probably also the portion size would matter, maybe to some degree.
Yeah, making sure that you don't have more going into your body than can fit in those two open palms in general. And if that's even too much, just listening. Like if you feel full at capacity, you're over capacity in general. Yeah.
One last question,
Mm,
Rosama. Lately, I only am eating at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, one meal.
one meal a day. How is that working for your body?
Wonderful.
And that's what Dr. Laud does. He was very open with us that he eats a large, lovely, lucid lunch. I think that's what he would call it. He eats a big lunch, and I think usually eats lunch sometime whenever the sun is really at its zenith. This is when our Agni is the highest, is it kind of mirrors the sun, the source of Agni on this planet. When the sun is at its zenith, when it's midday, bright sun, the power of our Agni is the strongest. And so yeah, whenever that meal is the right time to eat that meal might be different for you. But I know Dr. Laud, he eats one big meal, he'll have a lunch at that midpoint, and then that's it. Because maybe he realizes, he's in his 80s, the power of his digestion is slower, and so he's not going to overfeed it. He's not going to and he's going to wait for that natural hunger to come. And it comes. We'll hear his stomach gurgling when we were in class, and it was like a little past his lunchtime. He was ready for that meal and able to digest it completely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm going to look in the chat and see if we have any questions. Okay. Yeah, first question I'm seeing is asking if I recommend if there's a special book about Ayurveda that I can recommend. And as Dr. Ladd is my teacher, I recommend all of his books. He has one book that's a small book with like a little picture of a man on the cover. It looks kind of like it's from the 70s or something. And I think that's called Ayurveda for Health and Healing, something like that. It's a red book with a little man on the cover. That is a good introduction to Ayurveda. That was the first of his books that I read. Now, as a student of his and as someone who is kind of like a Pitta predominant person who loves to read and study, I highly recommend, if you are that type of person who likes textbooks, like I am, to pick up one of his textbooks. So this is his text Ayurveda Fundamental Principles, Volume 1. It's the yellow book. It's a really good place to start, and it reads like poetry. He's such a brilliant author and is so poetic and spiritual. There's so much spiritual wisdom in here. It's not just like a medical textbook. Um, so he has three of these textbooks. I would recommend if you want to go deeper, picking up one of these. And there's plenty of Ayurvedic cookbooks and Ayurvedic books on, you know, eating and diet and things like that. And I would recommend if he has a cookbook that's really great, and there are lots of them out there. So just kind of like look through the jungle of the bookstores and find the one that calls out to you. Um, Next question. Okay. Ayurvedic view on coffee or plant-based milk options. So coffee is interesting. Coffee, many of us love our coffee, and coffee can be fine for some constitutions. If you are that person with very slow digestion, very slow metabolism, things are slow in general, coffee is probably okay for you. If you have a congested liver, I've heard Dr. Ladd say that coffee, oh, fabulous. Like, black coffee for this person who's like maybe has a little extra weight and has some fatty deposits on the liver. Coffee can actually be medicine. However, if you're someone who has more of this Vishama or Tikshna quality, so more Vata and more Pitta in the system, like you tend towards perhaps loose stools or lots of dryness, coffee is going to exacerbate those qualities. So, especially for your Tikshna Agni people with burning sensations, I would say those are the people who should be very careful with coffee and maybe add, if they have to have their coffee, add a spice that's going to help neutralize the sharpness and the acidity. So a nice yummy spice you can add to your coffee is cardamom. Dr. Lau talks about that, adding like a pinch of cardamom. It tastes delicious and it's going to help to kind of neutralize some of those sharp qualities in the coffee.
I might interject a minute, Rosa.
Yes.
I have a friend, she's not attending right now, but after every meal, it's usually a hot meal, she sweats. Her
Mm.
head sweats, everything sweats. She's been going to all sorts of doctors. They don't know what's wrong with her. Do you have any suggestions so I can send her the tape or the
Yeah,
recording?
when you say a hot meal, I'm thinking, is it like a spicy meal or
No, it's hot
no?
coffee in the morning. Sometimes when she has lunch, she just sweats. Her whole head sweats. It's like she took a shower. And no, I said it's metabolic, but I really don't know if you can address that in any way.
Yeah, so when somebody is sweating a lot, we're going to think of there's more pitta in the system, there's more of that fire and water element. Sweat is also a byproduct of fat tissue.
Hmm.
So sweat, um, so somebody who's a pitta kapha predominant person is going to be someone who, yeah, will sweat after eating. And it's the body's natural intelligence. There's an intelligence there. It's trying to cool. Medically, I can't say much more than that, but I would just say that yeah, to balance, maybe this is somebody who could benefit from some of that aloe water, from
Hmm.
some of that, yeah, some of those things for Tikshna Agni to cool and pacify the system. But sweat it's natural and it's healthy. And if she's sweating a lot, there's a reason. The body is attempting to balance something out. So yeah, can't say much more than that.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
but thank you for your question. Yeah. And I didn't say anything about the plant-based milk options. From what I know, plant-based milks can be a little easier to digest for sure than your dairy milks, and but they have similar qualities and they can kind of be used interchangeably. Um, moving on. Somebody's asking about, I don't really understand this question. Somebody has pitta and kapha. So maybe you're referring to like if somebody has a different types of agnis at play. So like Vishama Tikshna or Manda Tikshna or Vishama Manda. So what you're going to do if you have multiple doshas at play affecting your agni is to balance them together, to treat what's presenting the highest, to treat what's presenting first. So if what's presenting first is more tikshna in quality, to balance that with your cooling methods, like aloe vera we just talked about, and then treat the next symptom. Everything in Ayurveda is about balancing with opposites. So to treat in general what's presenting first, let that pacify, and then to treat the next dosha as it presents. I hope that helps that question. Um, let's see. Somebody's asking about water drinking, sip by sip or glass of water. In general, when you eat, you're going to want to just sip your water, and it should preferably be room temperature or warm. And then throughout the day, just like with your hunger, drink when there's true thirst. Drink when you're truly thirsty, and don't overthink your water. I think we've kind of been like, um, programmed to believe that like we have to just drink water constantly and you constantly have to drink water, like you're going to die if you don't drink a ton of water. And it is important to drink water, especially if you're in a situation where you could easily get dehydrated. But you just like honoring your hunger, you want to honor your thirst. And you don't want to be drinking a ton of water if you're not truly thirsty. It's going to dilute things. It's going to actually impact your digestion. So drink water when you're truly thirsty. And then if you must drink water while you eat, to favor warm or room temperature water and just to sip it. So I hope that answers that question. And I think our time is about up. Maybe somebody was asking me about Dr. Laud, and Michelle put there his name in the chat. He's my Ayurvedic teacher. He lived in Albuquerque for many, many years and started his school there. And now he is here in Asheville, North Carolina. So anybody who's around this area, he's in your neighborhood. He's still here. He's still working. And he's running a Panchakarma center in Asheville called Soham. And last question. Wow, cool. Somebody's sharing that they had a problem with digesting dairy, but then after doing Surya Namaskar, it's completely gone. And I love that. So yoga asana can be really, we talked about Mahamudra, we know how important that is. And then Surya Namaskar. I'm not a yoga teacher, but I know a little bit about yoga asana, and Surya Namaskar is so great for kindling Agni because it's really like it's sun salutations. It's paying homage to the source, our planetary source of Agni, which is the sun. And the positions that you do during Surya Namaskar can be really beneficial. So thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, absolutely. Yoga asana can really help to kindle our digestive fire as well. And then last question, the 3-ingredient digestive tea that I mentioned was called CCFT. CCFT, it stands for cumin, coriander, and fennel. And these are seeds. So these are 3 seeds, cumin seeds, coriander seeds, and fennel seeds. You just brew them as a tea in equal parts. And this is a great detox tea. You're going to want to drink it warm, maybe put it in a thermos and sip it throughout the day. Very, very helpful for digestion. And I think that is all the time that we have. We're at the We're at the timer mark, so I apologize to anybody whose questions I didn't answer. And I just want to say deep, deep gratitude for all of you for being here, for being present while I do my best to share the Ayurvedic wisdom that has been shared with me to all of you. Bowing to Dr. Lad, bowing to Oline Adams, bowing to Guruji, and all of you. Thank you so much. I'm going to end with a prayer. And a reminder that if you resonate with these teachings, please look into Pranada Wellness Center. You'll be supporting Kriya Yoga and the Temple of Compassion and all of the good things that are happening there. And our spring retreat is in April. It's April of this next year, 11th through 17th. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudakshate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Bye everybody. Thank you so much.